Googled or AI searched yourself? And if you have, what has come up? And if you haven't, that's okay too. So just thinking, what do you know about yourself that you may have discovered from outside sources?
So surprisingly enough, Lee,
Yeah.
Dan,
Hi, Anne.
there are multiple Anne Blooms in the world. And that's what I discovered. We're all doing different. There's an actor Anne Bloom, there's a doctor Anne Bloom, there's multiple Anne Blooms when I Google myself. So I don't know how to differentiate myself, and that's what I'm hoping to learn from you today.
Okay, cool. Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about is owning your imprint, which is the unique qualities that you possess, and we're gonna have fun with this. So if anyone else wants to share in the chat, feel free to drop in what results are said about you, whether it be you or your doppelganger. Okay,
So I'm
so
monitoring the chat. Helen says she has Googled herself and did see other Helen Pattersons as well. And Chantel says she has not Googled herself lately. Me neither. I haven't done it lately. Many years back, I did once.
Mm. Yeah, I haven't either for a while.
And Nicole is saying it's a myriad of past lives. Um, Emily Gale Aiken.ca comes up, and Sharon says happy to connect on LinkedIn. And Sammy says, great question, but I have not.
all right, well, that's great. So, before we talk about how clients perceive you, or we talk about how you perceive yourself, which is a very important point because how we perceive ourselves definitely impacts what how we're able to shine out in the world. So, and I've definitely struggled with this myself. And so, I want to share a little bit of my story. And I've actually written about it. And this is something that has taken to my 53 years or 52, I'm not 53 yet, 53 in May, to get comfortable with. And that is that we all have challenges and we all have defining moments in our life. And my defining moment happened when I was a young girl and my parents decided that they were going to buy a resort. And they were not resort owners, nor did they have a background in the world of running a restaurant, a marina, and 32 cottages. And yes, it was a time in my life where I was just a young, blooming teenager figuring out who I was, and it had a very impactful experience on my life. And that is that I watched my parents lose everything. And it impacted how I see the world. To this day, it still does. I later in life during the pandemic was actually diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder because of the experiences of my childhood and specifically around seeing my dad really lose himself. He ended up a serious alcoholic, and after the resort closed due to bankruptcy, unfortunately, he was never able to get his life back in order again, and he died suddenly on Christmas Eve at age 62. And I'm 52 right now, so that's 10 years. 10 years. And when I think about a father and I think about, the fact that he seemed so old at the time, now at 52, I realize how short his life was cut back. And so it impacted the career choices that I made going forward. It impacted definitely risks that I was willing to take and not take. But there was an interesting, shining, bright moment in that example, and that is that my stepmother, who also went through the exact same experience, was able to be able to sort of rebuild her life. And she went on to have a successful career in government. And actually, funny enough, I was in my early 20s and I found the job uh, on a job board, and I sent it to her and I told her to apply, and she got the job. It's crazy when I think back on that now. And so she's now retired, and she was able to raise two boys, one who's now an orthopedic surgeon and lives in Scarborough. And we're a family that has lived through a lot. So we're the way in which we see our lives is often formed by many versions of us. And I have this lobster here, and this lobster holds a significant scientific fact that I actually never knew about until recently when I was working with my therapist. And I won't do it justice to share exactly what a lobster does. So I'm going to do a quick little video, and you'll hear exactly um, the significance of the lobster, which is also interesting because I'm from the East Coast. So it represents a bit of myself too.
A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining. Right? And the lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. Well, eventually, that shell becomes very uncomfortable as it grows and right back under the rocks. And the lobster repeats this numerous times. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. Okay? Now, if lobsters had doctors, they would never grow because as soon as the lobster feels uncomfortable, goes to the doctor, gets a Valium, gets a Percocet, feels fine, never gets off its shell. So I think that we have to realize that times of stress are also times that are signals for growth. And if we use adversity properly, we can grow through adversity.
So basically, from the way in which a lobster lives is that it has to shed its shell because it grows and it no longer can live within the shell that it has. And many of us have probably experienced this in their lifetime where you have maybe outgrown a relationship, or you've outgrown a job, or you've outgrown your business, and you're trying to find yourself again. And I definitely went through that post-pandemic. It led me to become an educator. And then recently, when the international student cap hit again, and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to go back to the drawing board because there isn't enough work for me in teaching. I had to get out that think about a new shell again. And so I decided, after looking for new work and going for job interviews and even getting some offers, I realized that I wasn't done with entrepreneurship. I as I mentioned, I didn't think I would ever become an entrepreneur. But the people in my life, the women in my life, that I was raised by a single mom as well, they showed me resiliency. And when I ended up staying at home with my youngest child and had a defining moment where my son was left home alone with a nanny because I was working part-time, I realized that it was time for me to go into entrepreneurship. And I was terrified. But I was able to start an organization to support women, and I grew that for over 15 years and ended up deciding to refocus on it in the last year as I balanced that in the gig economy with teaching. So some of you might be in the gig economy. balancing many things. A lot of us had to do that during the pandemic. We had to look for more secure work. Some of you might be a full-time entrepreneur, and some of you are looking for new opportunities. So you're probably wondering, when is my new shell going to come out? And so this presentation will help you to figure out those innate talents that you possess and that maybe you haven't given enough credit for. So um, I'm a big Mr. Bean fan. I love him. I think he's hilarious. I
Yeah,
used
me
to wa
too. Big
yeah,
fan.
I used to watch all of his movies or his TV shows on the BBC. And big change can feel like eating a whole lobster.
Or shrimp.
Yeah, exactly. Overwhelming. But the secret is that you have to take it one bite at a time, one step at a time, and small, consistent actions compound into transformation. And what I didn't realize over all of the times that I was experiencing major discomfort, that it was an opportunity for growth. And so stress and challenges aren't always just stop signs to tell us to stop what we're doing. It may be just a different mindset, and transformation requires letting go. So that means possibly shedding old habits, beliefs about yourselves, or patterns. And that can create space for reinvention. So your shell might be just ready to regrow, and we're here to support that. So, self leadership, we're going to talk a little bit about self leadership, and then we're going to talk about how self leadership can help you build a better personal brand that feels more in alignment with who you are. Because the more your personal brand is a recognition of you and all that you possess and all you've been through, the more true and authentic and more credible it is to others. So, self leadership is the practice of understanding who you are, identifying your desired experiences, and intentionally guiding towards them. It spans the determination of what we do, why we do it, and how we do it. So, this is by Charles C. Mance, who was a pioneer in creating this term self leadership. And I love it because leadership sounds like there's a thousand different types of leadership, and when when you just sort of think about, okay, well, how can I self lead? It just makes it all that much easier. And I teach leadership, and I know the different types of styles of leadership, and of course, they vary depending on what circumstances you're under. But when you just sort of think about how can I be the truest version of myself as a leader, it makes it that much easier to not make it so complex. So here are some of the core pillars. It includes your character strengths. So those strengths that you possess. Do you have a great sense of humor? Uh, are you intuitive? Are you a great listener? You know, those are examples of character strengths. Next are your abilities and your talents, your interests and your aspirations. So, your goals, the things that you enjoy doing, and also, you know, what's going on in the world. So, environmental strengths. And then lastly is psychological capital. So, we're going to get into talking about how you can get more in touch with that intuitive leader that you are. And we're going to jump into some of these topics here. And then we're going to finish with how you can take advantage of this for your personal brand. So, let's start with a framework that I have developed called the Change Framework. And every entrepreneur or any professional that I've worked with, they want to grow, right? And eventually they hit some sort of wall where the outer work has outpaced the inner work. And maybe your brand grew faster than your belief in it, or maybe your revenue outpaced the sense of worthiness that you receive from it, and you start to question yourself. So the change framework is a map of your inner journey, and it is focused on what makes outer growth sustainable. And trust me, I've had many different jobs, I've had many different lives, and I've thought many times, how am I ever going to survive all these changes? But yet I did, and here I am, still working. So the change framework is starts with the letter C, and this is stands for obviously change. And this is the start of recognizing that you cannot scale your business or your opportunities past your current ceiling of belief. So your mindset is what's most important to work on, because if you aren't willing to start with yourself, you are going to be held back. So, and I'm gonna stop after I read through the framework, and then I'm gonna ask you. So think about this as I'm reading the various elements. Where are you struggling the most, and where are you doing really well right now in the areas of the change framework? So H is honesty. And I felt this the last couple of weeks. I felt this knowing intuition that I am probably a little bit busier than what I can honestly manage. And so I've had to sort of scale back. And my intuition is that I need to do something, but my ego is saying, well, just push through, just push through. But you got to think about the impact that it has on your health and also the people around you. I am married with two kids that still live at home. They're teenagers, and the energy that I bring into the home is, it creates a ripple effect. So, yes, I can push through, but I also have to think about the bigger picture. And so, if you're a leader and you're leading a team, if you're stretching yourself too thin, then it's not just impacting you, it's a ripple effect. It's impacting everybody around you. And then is A, alignment. So every pivot, every new offer, every rebrand, you have to ask yourself, and this is what was really hard for me to finally discover, is does it actually match your values? So if your values are misaligned, then your business is going to feel exhausting to run, or your career or whatever. So really pay attention to that. And then N, navigate. So your business is not linear. Your job is not to avoid turbulence, it's to navigate one decision at a time. And I've got some really fun analogies to walk you through with just that. And then next is G for grow. So disruption is proof that you are in motion. And the discomfort of building something real is not a sign that something is wrong, it's friction. And friction creates traction. So it's not a bad thing. Growth can feel uncomfortable, but it is a wonderful opportunity. And sometimes our mistakes, right? Sometimes we have to grow through mistakes, things that we try and don't work out. Like, for example, our in-person event, it didn't work out, but we were resilient and we came up with a win-win framework to move on. And then E is enoughness. So I want to spend some time on this for a minute, because this one's really important. It's something that I've struggled with my whole life, is not feeling like I was enough. Uh, and maybe you relate to that. And so, just take a moment to think about whether in your everyday life, are you really struggling to feel like you're worthy and of value? Do you think that you're not enough on a regular basis? Because that really impacts, what you think is impacts everything. So I want you to know that you're already enough to be here in this room. You're already enough to run your business or to work on your next opportunity. You do not need more credentials. This is another thing that I really struggle with. I love credentials. You do not need more followers, and you do not need a better website, although I obsess over mine. because you're allowed to claim your expertise just as you are right now in this moment. So let's take a moment because I've shared quite a bit, and these are heavy topics. And I hope I haven't triggered anybody with talking about, how this might be showing up for you. But I'm curious to know if anyone wants to share which of the letters, feel free to pop it in the chat or share briefly. Which letter do you feel like you are winning at right now? So let's start with the positive. Which letter are you winning at? Are you amazing at managing change? Are you honest with others and yourself? You're very transparent. Do you understand where you need to be aligned? Are you currently navigating a challenge and you're really proud of how you're handling it? Do you feel like you're enough? Have you mastered that? So feel free to share in the chat, and Anna, maybe you can tell me if there's maybe you can tell me if there's anything popping up in the chat, or if anyone wants to unmute and very briefly share.
Yeah,
Yeah.
James said
Emmett,
he's pretty good
sorry.
at honesty. I'm feeling good about alignment from Heidi. Emily says honesty. Natalie said, hi, Natalie, welcome. Wow, enoughness hit me hard. That is key. I've never heard it said as succinctly as this. Love it. And the only thing I'm really good at change, and the only thing I know for certain is that growth is optional, change is inevitable. Karen Lefner said grow. Sharon said honesty, and Sammy said navigate the challenges and changes. Heidi, enoughness is a killer. And James, I also struggle with enoughness.
Mm.
Chantal, alignment, growth, change. Nicole, I also struggle with enoughness.
Right, me too, enoughness. And I think we just shared in the chat as well. Karen said imposter syndrome, and yeah, for sure, it creeps up all the time. Eh?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because imposter syndrome is, everybody feels that, but it's just that you don't have enough experience yet. And so, the more that we just say, oh, I just need a little more experience, or, we focus on just moving forward, right? It's like when we're feeling anxious, sometimes the best thing to do is to not avoid, but to just take action. And then that ultimately makes us feel better because we're just, we all have to move forward as hard as it can be. So thank
So Lee,
Lee,
I have a
I have
question
a
or a
question.
comment.
Oh,
sure.
okay, me too.
How much experience is enough experience? I mean, if we're trying to grow our business and we have this expertise that we provide to our clients, when do we say that we've got the expertise that we need and we're comfortable with what we bring? And how much do we say, no, we need to learn more?
Yeah, that is a tough one. It really depends on the circumstances. I think that a business owner especially has to be sure that they surround themselves with the right people. A business owner cannot act in isolation. A business owner must surround themselves with the experts that make up the gaps that you have. And that's not a negative. Like, I am not a financial person. I take great power in having a financial advisor who helps me to know exactly where I'm at. But if I tried to do all that myself, then I would definitely feel disempowered.
I think a good, sorry to interrupt, Lee, but
Yeah.
I think a good experience or level of experience is to know your limitations, to
Yes,
know what you don't know, and to know what you need help with, and to find someone to help you fill those gaps. I'm not
exactly.
sure that, I'm not sure we never have enough experience. We have experience in the areas that we feel comfortable in. And that's where we have to work our magic with.
Yeah. And
I
everyone has a zone of genius. And so you want to spend most of your time in your zone of genius.
Hmm.
The areas that you're procrastinating or don't or you struggle through. And that's why personality tests are great. And here's a tip. So Crystal Knows is a website where you can help to prep yourself for sales meetings. It takes the disc profile and it allows you to overlay um, how who you are and who someone else is and how to approach that person. But what the real,
Hey, can you repeat? Sorry, can you repeat that? What is the
yeah,
website?
it's called Crystal, like the name Crystal, Crystal,
Right.
the crystal ball, crystalknows.com. And there are about six different personality tests on that when you register, and they're all free. So everyone gets a free account, but for you to overlay your personality with someone else's personality, you only get 10 credits. Once you've looked at that, so they're great for prepping for a business meeting or a job interview with the actual leader, not the human resources person, like the person that you're going to actually work with. And I've done mine, and they talk about drainers. So what are the parts of your personality that you can do, but if you do them too much, they become a drainer. So that you should pay attention to that. So this isn't to say that, you can do everything and you um, every academic requirement. Um, this is basically what I'm trying to say is that there are certain types of jobs that you absolutely need to have the right requirements. And if you don't have those, then you should find the person that has those. And so I'm talking accountant, lawyer, financial planner. If you do not have those qualifications or that education, then to me, that makes sense to have an expert. Also, human resources. So, I don't, I know a lot about human resources. I've worked in recruiting. I have a lot of expertise in DEI, but I don't know all of the legislation. So if I were making a decision about whether to let someone go, I would definitely want to consult with a human resources certified human resources professional to make sure that I have my bases covered, right? So I hope that sort of gives you some clarity around that. All
Uh,
right. So the next,
I have a comment or a question on
sure.
that, whichever way you take. Um, so you and Anne talked about, yeah, if we don't have the expertise in something, we should take external help. Your example about the financial advisor and an HR professional was very apt, and but there are certain things which you are not an expert in or you don't know. And
Mhm.
if you try and learn to a certain level, I think that brings about growth as well, right? So, for
Absolutely.
example, I have just, very recently, just a few months back, started my own consulting business. And I knew very little to nothing about marketing. And I had to learn so much and how to put myself out there, what all things that you need to do. I'm taking
Mhm.
tips from, some newsletters and some free downloadable things that you take, you get, and then they start sending you emails. Of course, we know that.
Mhm.
But then again, that has, I think, given me a lot of growth and I've learned so much about marketing. Um, so I think there is a fine balance when you think something is really critical, like a finance, and you don't want to just start learning and doing it on your own. But there are certain things which you can and should learn so that that brings about growth as well.
Exactly, right? I don't think anybody should be an entrepreneur without some level of financial literacy skills. So if that means working with your accountant and asking them to mentor you, it might be a paid mentorship, but essentially you ask them like, what are the things that I should be crystal clear on, right? What is my North Star metric? So there's certain things that you should take the responsibility on learning to know if it's going to impact your success. But if there's other things that someone else could do better and you could, or you could collaborate with, or you could get mentorship on, there's so many creative ways that we can learn things. And so it could come in the form of a course or a certification. It could come in the form of getting a mentor. And I know that Helen can certainly speak to the power of mentorship. I mentor in a couple of programs right now, and I get as much out of it as my mentees do because it's helping me to be a better communicator. It's helping me to listen more. It's helping me to coach and all those things. So, there's lots of ways that we can gain experience and build our enoughness. So the next area that I want to focus on is the leader framework. So we have, change leader, and this is what we all are in some form or capacity. So as a founder, every time you show up on a screen, a Zoom call, a webinar, an Instagram live, or in person, you are the brand. And the leader framework is how you do that with intention. So L is listen. And that's not just to your clients, but to your market. A founder who builds the most resonant offers are the ones that listen first and create second. And so, oftentimes we will, pitch our services before people really know who we are, and then there's a disconnect. So it's important to get to know people before you present an offer to them. And also, most importantly, get to know them, listen, and learn. That is market research. The next one is evolve. Your business model at a year one should not look identical to your business model at year five. This is your permission to grow and to pivot and to surprise yourself. A is for authentic. So you want to build a business in your own voice, in your own style. And and I really struggled with this. There are other people that do what you do. And of course, you're like, well, who am I to do this? There's already these other better, more established networks or whatever it is that you do, right? And I definitely struggled with this. But there is only one you, and no one is going to do it exactly the way you do it. So you are the differentiator. So stop getting too focused on what everybody else is doing and focus on what you can do. Next is a D, dare. And this one's tough, especially for the female entrepreneurs in the meeting. D is all about having the daring mindset to raise that price, to post that opinion, to say no, which is really hard, and say the thing in the room that no one else is willing to say. The most magnetic personal brands are the ones that are built on courageous capacity. And then E, emotions. People buy from people they trust, and trust is built through genuine emotional connection, not polished marketing copy, but real human contact, real human stories. And then R, reflect. And this is a tough one. And it's why it's important to step away from your office and to get out and to spend regular time reflecting on your business rhythm. Ask yourself, is the imprint I'm leaving the one I intended to leave? So, in other words, what you're trying to impart and the impression you're trying to leave, do you think that you're actually doing it? And sometimes you're not. Sometimes it's not going to go according to plan, and that's okay. That's how you learn. So, does anyone want to share a moment where they've had to take on a daring challenge? So the courage to do something that you're not sure is going to go over so well. And this is something that I've only recently got comfortable with.
I can share. But I have to say that I don't think it's comfortable. I'm not comfortable with the daring. I mean, if I looked at them, the dairy is the part that it's most uncomfortable for me. Uh,
Hmm.
but yeah, to make a decision to leave my old career behind, old life behind, and to come here is something that to go to the unknown and to build everything from scratch is something that it's really uncomfortable. But
Yeah, but it's going to lead to great transformation. And then you can share your story, right? It could be someone who wants to leave a marriage that's abusive, or someone who has a toxic boss and they're afraid, right? As soon as you share your story about how you had the courage to dare, you're creating that ripple effect for someone else to do the same thing. So how do we apply this?
Sorry,
Yeah,
Lee, Emily has her hand up.
yes,
Oh,
go ahead.
I was going to say, my dare is right now I'm taking my hands off of my adult children
Mm.
and um, accepting that they can manage without me.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you mentioned that, Emily. My son his driver's license is going to expire. He's in the threes. He's got his first level, so he's been driving for several years now. Drives to work, does the whole thing, but he has to get his unrestricted license, and it's due to expire in April. And I want so bad to go in and start micromanaging him and like get him on it and but ultimately sometimes we have to allow people to learn by taking the responsibility themselves to manage their own time. And you don't know, you don't we sometimes people have to you have to watch people fail in order to succeed. And so
Oh,
I really relate to that share, Emily. I'll have to
it's
get some
it's
tips from
like at
you.
the end of a cooking show, they
Yeah,
say, "Okay, chefs," and they have to take their hands off of and just leave whatever is there. You know,
totally.
I
I
I
love it.
just so I do like take my hands off.
Yep. Yep. And it might be an employee or your sister, someone else in your life. We can all relate to when we want to get in and tell them what they should be doing. But sometimes the best thing we can do is let them figure it out themselves or listen, just listen, right? And that's something that when someone shares a challenge with us, we want to jump in and solve it for them. And maybe that's not what they want. So frameworks only work if we can actually use them, on a Tuesday morning like this when we're staring at a blank content calendar. So the whole idea is that we really want to make this practical. So listen means paying attention to what your clients say between the lines, the hesitations, the I've tried everything, the dreams behind the problem. That's your next offer. And you want to evolve, meaning letting your brand story grow with you. Your pivot is not a red flag at your audience, to your audience. It's evidence that you are exactly the kind of founder that they want to learn from. Authentic means staying in your lane when even a competitor's strategy is working and yours feels slow. This is a tough one. The slow build in your own voice will always outlast the fast build in someone else's. Dare means posting before you actually feel ready, pitching before you have a polished deck, raising your rates before a client asks. Daring is a business strategy, not just a mindset. It's also saying no or firing or a misaligned client. Emotions means connecting with your audience like they are people, not potential sales. The content that converts is the content that makes someone feel seen, heard, and valued, and that they belong. Reflect means pausing at the end of each month to ask, is what I'm creating aligned with the business I said that I wanted to build or the career or whatever, right? And that can be something that can be really important, right? The last couple of months, I've been running with my head cut off and I'm tired. I'm really tired. So I'm laughing that I'm talking about building a brand where you don't burn out. I, I'm close to burning out, but I am self-evolved enough to know that I'm getting close to a wall and I'm going to not try to jump over that wall. I'm going to go around the wall. And so you may be at that point in your life as well. And so, pay attention to your intuition. So,
I have a comment on that, Lee.
yeah, sure.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
Um, Sometimes, and maybe it depends on every individual personality, but so I'll give my example. I'll burn out, I'll do so much, take more on my plate and whatever. But when everything falls in place and whatever you were doing comes to fruition,
Hmm.
to the satisfaction that it gives so much satisfaction and it gives that adrenaline rush. And so for me, I then forget about, okay, these 3 weeks I had been going crazy and working so much and almost burning out, but then it
Hmm.
almost feels like, it was all worth it. Okay, got it and done. So, you know, that just boosts the energy. You take a little break and then you get going again.
The what I hear is that yeah, in the moment you're like, it's like a wedding, right? For those of us who
Right.
have been married, we
Right.
know what it's like. Or maybe it's a party that you've thrown for someone. You know
Right.
that moment where you're like, I'm not gonna make it through. It's not gonna happen.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me it was conferences, because I've put on many conferences, and not just here, but in other provinces while I live here, in Toronto. So not easy. But yeah, there is that moment, that afterglow, we call it, the afterglow of achieving. And it can feel really powerful. But
Mm.
you mentioned something that I want to remind everybody, and that is you do have to rest, though, right? You have to take the time to
Right.
rest and to listen to your body and to recover, and tweak, right? Tweak what maybe was not worth it, right? So do those post-business evaluations of what worked, what did you learn, and what would you do differently, and not just be on a um, you know, autopilot, right? And
Right.
you want to make sure that you don't keep repeating the same things that weren't working for you. A big example for me is that someone asks me to speak at something, or asks for my help or asks me to attend an event, and I'm really excited in the moment, but then, and I say yes right away, and then I realize, oh, I didn't think it through. So, have a framework where if you have to make a lot of decisions, have a system for making that decision so that you're not doing it on the fly and then you regret your decisions. So a system is important. All right. So we're almost getting to the end, and we're going to focus now on the 8 C's of building your business brand. So I'm going to tell you what your personal brand is not. It is not the color palette. It is not your Instagram aesthetic. It is not your brand photography. Though all those things do matter, your brand is the 8 qualities that bring to every call, every conversation, every piece of content you create. And I call them the 8 C's. C calmness. So ground yourself before you do a marketing campaign, pitch, or post. Content created from anxiety sounds like anxiety. And I've definitely been there where I've created content out of a sense of scarcity. And maybe you can relate. Content created from groundedness sounds like leadership. So I'm going to say that one more time. Content created from groundedness sounds like leadership. Confidence. Own your expertise. You did not accidentally arrive at what you know. You earned it. So charge accordingly and act accordingly. Clarity. If you can articulate what you do, who it's for, and why it matters in two sentences, then you need to do that work. And it's not the Canva template. It's not on AI. What you truly know in your heart is your value proposition. Make sure it's clear. That's your clarity. Once you know what you do and who you do it for and why you do it, you're going to come across in your personal brand that's much more confident. Courage. So visibility is an act of courage. Trust me, I know I've had visibility hangovers or vulnerability hangovers where I feel like I've shared too much. But invisibility also has a cost. Every time you don't share your perspective, someone who needs to hear you isn't hearing you. Curiosity. What makes you different is almost always the thing that you can't help being curious about. Lean into it. So pay attention to what you're curious about. And be curious about yourself, not judgmental. We're often our worst, harshest critic. So the next time you feel yourself judging yourself, instead reframe it to be, I wonder why that's showing up. Where's it showing up in my body? What's it trying to tell me? As opposed to, you're such an idiot. I can't believe you did this to yourself again, right? I've done that too. Next is creativity. Find the format that works for you and keeps you alive, that you're excited to do. Not every entrepreneur or leader building their personal brand should be on video. Not every entrepreneur or leader needs to write a book or have a podcast. Find the medium that works for you. Compassion. So, the clients who say and refer and rave about you, they stay with you because they felt genuinely cared about, not just serviced. So, pay attention to connecting to your kindness. And I'll tell you, your kindness is not going to show up if you are burnt out. I know from experience. Connectedness. Invest in your network before you need it. I always say, find a therapist before you need one. It is, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're going through a transition, community is your best marketing strategy and your best mental health strategy. So have that shadow cabinet, have those people around you that help you in your darkest moments. So we're at the end of our presentation, and I want you to just take just a moment. So just a moment to reflect. So feel free to open up your notes. And I want you to rate yourself from 1 to 5 on each of these C's. And circle your two lowest, the two lowest on your list of the 8 C's. And then let's work on developing a priority around one of the two of the lowest that you're going to take action on in the next 90 days. Okay. So we're going to help you to develop a plan. So I'm going to give you a moment to just open your notes or get out your notebook and rate your two lowest of the 8 C's. And then for the ones that you rated high, think about utilizing those more often. And try to focus on answers that are intuitively feel good to you, right? That inner leadership. This isn't about your ego. This isn't about what you think you should be doing. This is what you know you should be doing, your inner knowing. Um, I had Danielle Laporte, who's an Oprah influencer, who is a spiritual leader guide. She's written several books. She spoke at two of my conferences, and the best advice that she ever gave is so simple, and that is focus on how you want to feel. And so if ask yourself before you commit to something, how do I feel I'm gonna, how's this gonna land? Am I gonna feel good about this? So focus on the feeling that you want to get out of the goal.
Leave your rating lowest and highest, right?
Yeah, but what we're working on is the two lowest. So you're gonna pick out of all the eight, your two lowest, and we're going
Right.
to walk away with an action that you can take in the next 90 days. So and try as possible to put a date to it and put it in your calendar so that you don't actually say you're going to do something about it, but then forget. And if you like, if we end up doing this again, and all of you hopefully will join again because I'd love to build on to these things. And I want to talk to, I can do training around AI, and how to build AI tools that don't take away the uniqueness of you. Because a lot of people I see use AI and it looks like AI. So I can help you save a lot of time and energy using AI in a more strategic and effective way. So I'll just give you an example. This particular presentation that I built it using Claude. And I got it to create tr a speaker's facilitation guide for me. But the reason why it's so on brand, well, of course I tweaked it, but also is because I had my brand guide attached to my AI profile. So every time that I create in AI, it knows my fonts, it knows my color scheme, it knows my brand voice. So there's a lot of digital tools that we can use that can enhance our strategy and our materials without taking away from our individuality. So I'd like to come back and do more sessions with you. And most importantly, I'd love to come back and find out, what was the thing that you worked on, and how can we continue to move you forward past those 90 days. So would anyone feel comfortable to share something that they want to work on and take action on in the next 90 days? And again, make sure you open up your calendar and schedule it so that you don't forget.
I don't mind sharing.
Sure.
So my lowest are clarity and courage.
Okay.
I know what what I bring and I know what I can do, but to put it in like a couple of sentences or articulate it well to be able to speak to it. I'm still struggling with that. And for me, it was borderline courage and confidence. I think they're both merged for me.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
know my stuff. I know what I bring. I know what I can do. I know how I can help um, other entrepreneurs, businesses, whatever. But to have the courage to speak loudly about it, to go in places and you know, again, putting myself out there and having the courage to be bold enough to talk to it, that is what I'm struggling with. So again, confidence and courage, I think, for me are borderline, like they're mixed.
Yeah. And you mentioned clarity too, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I think when you work on the clarity, the confidence and courage will be an outcome. So I think I would work on the clarity, and I'll just share really quickly. I was I keep on it's very embarrassing to me, but I've tweaked my brand, over tweaked my brand, and that's because I was not sure who I was meant to serve. And I had to get really honest with myself. And you can't serve everybody. So the more niche you can get, the more your communication speaks specifically to that audience. It's the same thing with going for a new job. If you don't have an exact job title picked out, it's really hard for you to get good clarity on how to get that role. Because if you're going after everything, then it's really hard for you to have that clarity to know that you're on the right track. So the more niche, the more specific, hyper focused you can get, the better. But at the same time, be flexible. Be flexible with yourself and be careful how you speak to yourself, which is something else that I really struggle with. So,
Right.
the change framework for your brand is, whether you rebrand or pivot or you have a new offer, lean into it. Don't apologize for it. And this is something I struggled with, right? Like I had to struggle with, oh, I can't believe that I left Women in Biz Network and now I have to start all over again. I felt embarrassed. I felt really embarrassed and a lot of shame. But you can't hold on to that. You can allow yourself to feel the feelings and acknowledge, yeah, it's frustrating, but I did what I thought was best at the time with the information that I had. And so, allow yourself to let go, shed that shell, create that new shell, and that's definitely where I'm at. Alignment, every piece of your content, your offer, every collaboration that you think that you might enter into, just ask yourself, does it reflect your actual values? Get to know people before you collaborate with them, right? Date before you marry. Show your audience that you're a learner. Growth is a signal, not a weakness. Growth is a trust signal, not a weakness. Your honesty is your most magnetic part of your brand. And share real stories. It's very difficult to share things about yourself that you might feel that you'll get judged for. But for me personally, I've shared the most intimate parts of my life and my so-called character flaws, and the world did not burn. I'm still here. I'm not at any disadvantage for sharing some very personal information about myself. And that took some courage. And maybe it turns off certain people, but I love that years ago, there was a Vanity Fair cover, and the Vanity Fair cover had a picture of Donald Trump on the front of it, and it was a tweet of him insulting Vanity Fair. And the whole idea about the cover was to say, yeah, that's right, because you're not our reader, right? Donald Trump, we don't want you to like our magazine. If you like our magazine, then it means that we're doing something wrong. So just remind yourself that the right people will be attracted to the most honest version of yourself. And then navigate, right? Stop stripping away your perspective to please everyone. And that can be really difficult. Well, if I just do this, if I just tweak it, then more people will like it. But then it starts to get diluted. And again, I've learned those mistakes firsthand. And enoughness. Yes, certainly, if you need to get another credential and it makes sense and it's going to give you confidence, great, go for it. But just remind yourself what you already know before you make the commitment to additional education. So remember that discomfort is a growth signal, that resistance that you feel could be not that it's not meant to be a stop sign, but it's proof that you're at your growing edge. Your pivot is your story. So if you have to shed an old offer or a niche and create a new identity, there is the space that exists for you to do this. So share why. It was so funny. There was a store on Dundas, and it was a kids store. And I wish I could think of the name of the brand right now. It was like growing something or another. And I remember doing some support marketing for this company, and I noticed on Instagram that the company still exists under the same brand, but now instead of selling clothes, they sell plants. And but the brand still made sense. So they just evolved the brand. And I was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. And then there was a co-working space downtown. And it was, oh gosh, I hope I can get the name right. I think it's like, what was the name of the women's co-working space? Something with lemonade, Make Lemonade. And they during the pandemic, they shut down. And the founder went back to the drawing board and decided that she really loved to she loved plants, she loved creating designs. So now she's a design florist, and she kept her old brand and she just repurposed it. So try not to limit yourself. The imagination has a bigger imagination than you do. So write that down. The universe has a bigger imagination than you do. So just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. Take small steps to make big business moves. You don't need to rebrand overnight. One honest post, one new conversation is a courageous step, and it compounds itself. Um, so I just want to show this takes 2 seconds. Does anyone has anyone ever spent a cottage night or day on a dock? And have you ever noticed these little guys? You see what those are? Can anyone tell me what those are?
Water spiders.
They're water bugs, yeah, or
Yeah.
maybe they're spiders. God, I hope not. Ooh, spiders.
I know I hate them, but they are water spiders. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I
I
call them
always
water
like them.
bugs. I'm going to call them water bugs because that's less scary to me. And water bugs, they move in tiny, deliberate shifts. They adjust to every ripple. They don't plan 10 steps ahead. They respond in real time. So this means that you don't need to have the full plan. You can move moment to moment, trusting your instincts, and you can pause, sense, and adjust. And lastly, and this is really important, I would not be where I am today had I not embraced the power of nature. Nature can sharpen your mind It can lead to clearer decisions and strategy, improves creative thinking, better focus and problem solving, and enhanced leadership because you're taking time to restore yourself. It lowers stress and burnout. It helps you with better sleep and recovery. It improves your mental regulation and your emotional ability to withstand stress. It creates stronger social connections and it can strengthen your business. Um, and the reason why is that nature immersion boosts innovation. It has a positive impact on your body and your mind, and it can help you sustain high performance. So, you cannot build a business from a burnt out body. And yet, that's how many of us have run our businesses, like a sprint with no finish line. The research is clear. Time in natural environments improves our cognitive function, our creative thinking, our leadership presence. Your best strategic ideas rarely come out at your desk. They come out on a walk, in a shower, or at the edge of the water. Nature nurtures your well being, it lowers stress, better sleep, stronger emotional regulation. And it's not a luxury. These are conditions that help us make better decisions. It strengthens your capacity to keep moving. It strengthens your cardiovascular resilience, your immune function, the kind of stamina that lets you build something over years, not months. This is why nature is built into our Changemaker Leader retreats. It's not an add-on, it's a program. Because founders who can be still, who can listen to themselves in a quiet forest, are built to lead a more sustainable and aligned business that you won't want to give up on. So, how did I get to where I'm at right now? I, of course, have taken courses. I have surrounded myself by mentors. I also am an avid reader. Um, Helen, shout out for your book club. These are some of the books that have helped me to get where I am. The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership, Atomic Habits, How to Be Enough, and Becoming a Resonant Leader. So I invite you to check out these books to explore some of these concepts. And evolve moment by moment. Your leadership is an imprint. It's not fixed. It grows with every courageous step that you take to move forward. So if you'd like to book time with me to talk about